Welcome to the Clear Admit MBA Admissions Podcast. I'm Graham Richmond, and I am really excited about this episode because we have a special guest. She's an entrepreneur who has experience both starting and selling companies and was actually featured in Fortune magazine because of this. She attended undergraduate university at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, where she studied economics. She's also a graduate of the Kellogg School of Management, which is going to be of particular interest to our listeners, I suspect. And she's a published author, has a YouTube channel, and regularly contributes to U.S. News and World Report. And by the way, she also is one of the world's most well-known experts on the subject of MBA admissions. And she runs a premier MBA admissions consulting firm. Welcome, Stacy Blackman.
Thank you. Thanks for the nice intro, Graham.
My pleasure. So I was really looking forward to having this discussion with you. As I learned more and more about like your personal background and your journey, I just was getting incredibly excited and just thinking about how, for those listening in, obviously everyone listening to our podcast wants to go to a top MBA program, and they're going to be thrilled to hear whatever insights you have on that. But I also think that a lot of the folks listening, they want to start their own company someday. They have these entrepreneurial goals, and they want to hear like what that's like. And so you have that kind of in spades. So I'm just really excited to get into this discussion. I thought that maybe a good place to start would be to just better understand, like, where are you from and how did you end up at University of Pennsylvania for undergrad, and like, why did you choose econ?
So I'm from Los Angeles, and most of the people in my class went to great UCs and schools out here. I really wanted a change of scenery and to meet different types of people. So I was looking on the East Coast, and I kind of fell in love with Penn. I just thought it had such a great mix of, rigorous academics and a really good reputation, but also just it's a fun place with lots of diverse personalities and a lot of school spirit. In some ways, similar to Kellogg as well. It has that good balance. So I really focused in on Penn, and then I learned about Wharton. I always knew I was going to go into business. I was starting little businesses when I was in 7th grade, like selling bracelets. And I was always intrigued by marketing and advertising. I think literally in like 8th or 9th grade, I had my first internship at an ad agency. I was fascinated by just the psyche of consumers and understanding them. So I applied to Wharton at Penn. And once I got there, I concentrated. My degree was in economics, but I also concentrated in marketing.
Okay, that all makes sense. Yeah, and I agree with you. I went to Wharton for my MBA, and I feel like it's a great campus, great experience, and there is a lot of school spirit. I will say, as a Los Angeles native, you must have missed the weather because Philadelphia has very different climate compared to the West Coast.
Yeah, funny. I was that freshman who was thinking the sky is blue, I'm going to throw on my shorts. And then I'd walk out the door and had a rude awakening that it can be blue sky and freezing cold. Yeah. So that was an interesting education for me my first year. But it was actually a lot of fun. When you're 18 years old and there's snow on the ground, and that was also just part of the new experience. So
yeah, makes sense.
I did come back to LA, so
yes.
That's where I am now. So I guess the weather did win out.
Yeah.
But for the time I was there, it was kind of fun.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about your early career, because you didn't go directly from Wharton undergrad onto Kellogg for an MBA. You worked. So what did you do during that time?
So even though I was always interested in marketing, as I said, I concentrated in marketing. Out of Penn, I strangely went into private equity. They had on-campus recruiting, and that was just kind of one of the things that I fell into. So I moved out to San Francisco. I was working in finance. I was the only woman in the office and at the table in any meeting I attended.
Wow.
And it was a great education for me. I learned about a lot of different fields, got to know a lot of people. I learned how to run the numbers really well. Excel was my best friend. But as time went on, I was there for 4 years. I found that I really craved being on the other side of the table. I wanted to be in the thick of running a business as opposed to just sort of like running the numbers as an investor. And that's when I decided I wanted to pivot, and I decided that going back to business school would be the best way to do that. So I applied.
Makes sense. Yeah. I guess I wondered, so the MBA makes sense, like when you think of it in the context of, you knew you wanted to do business. It's a great degree. But how did you end up choosing Kellogg? I mean, obviously, you were on campus at Penn, obviously probably knew a lot about Wharton's MBA program. Did you not want to double dip? And then, obviously Kellogg's a great school that's kind of known the world over for marketing. Was that what drew you in, or what were the factors that kind of influenced your decision there?
Yeah, so I didn't even apply to Penn for exactly that reason. I wanted, again, a new experience. I wanted to try something new. So Wharton was out. Mm-hmm. And Kellogg caught my attention really early on because of its marketing reputation. And I was, at the time, I was thinking maybe I wanted to go into CPG. I didn't know, but I really was interested in the marketing angle. And then I researched Kellogg more and more. And it was that work hard, play hard dynamic that I found at Penn for undergrad. And it seemed to be the case at Kellogg as well. And I loved kind of the culture of collaboration and teamwork. And I went to visit, and it just felt like home for me. So that quickly became my first choice school, and I was fortunate enough to get in.
So I'm going to ask you to, shift gears a little bit and think about MBA admissions very directly. What do you think has changed about the MBA admissions landscape since the time that you applied? I mean, not just with Kellogg, but overall, just broadly speaking.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is the transparency. When I applied back in the olden days, there was an internet, but it was just, there weren't the blogs and the podcasts, and you just didn't hear directly from the heads of admissions. So it was kind of this very mysterious and kind of scary black box that, okay, we're gonna try to submit our best application, hope we're giving them what they want, but we didn't really know what they wanted. We weren't hearing from the admissions committee. So the transparency, I think, has been a really great thing. It's for the schools, and it's enabled them to open up a dialogue with the applicants, and also for the applicants so they can really know what's going on inside the admissions committee.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I absolutely still recall when I applied to business school, you just had no idea. Like you kind of sending your materials off into space and no idea like what the process is. And now admissions officers go, all out to sort of explain each step in the process and keep people posted. Tell me a little bit about your time at Kellogg. What did you like about it? Did it live up to this sort of collaborative nature that you were looking for? And what was special about your time there?
So Kellogg, it really was life-changing for me. And I think that in general, business school can be life-changing for people. I think most of us go to business school with some idea of what we think we want to do. Like for me, I wanted to do marketing, so I wanted to get a job, a seat in consumer packaged goods, and kind of follow that path. But once I got there, I realized there were so many possibilities and opportunities, so many things that I never would have crossed my mind before. So it was really eye-opening, and it bolstered my confidence, and my set of possibilities just expanded. So it was amazing in that way. I ended up doing something completely different than what I thought I'd do. And then, it did live up to the reputation. And I have to say, the people, that's the piece that many years later, it just keeps paying off. Once I've forgotten all the lessons that I learned in class, and I've switched gears on career a couple times, the people that I graduated with, they're still my dearest friends. They're a valuable network. They've been instrumental in helping me launch my companies and introducing me to contacts. They've invested, supported. It's just been such a valuable resource that keeps on giving really forever. So Yes. Big thumbs up on that experience.
Yeah, and I know Kellogg has a new facility. Not sure if you've been back to campus to see it, but I've heard amazing things about their new building, which, I mean, it's right on the water, if I understand,
Yes.
and it's a
Yes.
giant facility.
It's spectacular. Yeah, it's really incredible.
Excellent. So if I remember correctly, like while you're in business school, you started a company, right? Which you also sold while you were in business school. Do you want to just give us how does one even do that? Like we often hear about candidates dreaming of like leaving business school and starting a company, but you actually did it while you were in school, right?
Yeah, so that was a crazy ride. I mean, I did my summer internship exactly what I thought I'd do. I worked in CPG. I worked on actually the Haagen-Dazs brand, which at the time was owned by Pillsbury. So I spent my summer in Minneapolis. And it fell flat. I came back my second year at Kellogg, so sort of discouraged. Now everything that I thought I wanted to do, I didn't want to do. And I had one more year at business school, and what was I going to do? So ended up very early on in the year discussing with some of my classmates and very good friends. And we came up with a bunch of business ideas. And, we were just having fun. We were kind of brainstorming, and we'd get together on Sunday mornings and write business plans and, just collaborate and think. And we came up with this idea for an online registry, which I guess now sounds like, yeah, that's what you do. People do online wedding registries. But back then, I mean, it was really, really new. And we ended up getting traction and launching it. And I mean, again, Kellogg was so instrumental in introducing us to people and giving us feedback. And we did an independent study, and the teachers were our advisors. I mean, it was such a great breeding ground for this company. And one of the professors ended up introducing us to a VC who introduced us to the company that eventually acquired us. And so we sold the company. It was prior to graduation.
Wow.
It was quite a year. And we ended up moving out, the three of us, to San Francisco and taking a role within that larger company, working on our baby company. So yeah, that was crazy.
And I think I remember seeing like maybe it was Fortune magazine. There was like a whole cover story about, was it you and your co-founders, or I feel like that was what it was, but maybe I'm not remembering this right.
Yeah, so they followed us. They started early on in the year when we were at Kellogg, and they followed us through the acquisition, and they featured us throughout the year in Fortune. And then at some point we were on the cover, which was really fun. And I'm still actually the reporter who reported on that story. We became friendly with the reporter and the photographer, and now our kids are at the same school in LA, so I still see her. So
oh, that's too funny. Oh, that's
the gift
awesome.
that keeps on giving. You never know how it's all gonna circle back.
So tell me, so you start and sell a company, you leave Kellogg, and where does the sort of Stacy Blackman Consulting business come into play? When did you launch it, and what made you decide to do that as your kind of next thing? Or maybe there were some things you did in between, but what drew you to starting an admissions consultancy?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've thought a lot about this during COVID, because COVID, things are going crazy and everything's changing and plans are falling apart. People are deferring going to school. I mean, it's all insane. And the same thing kind of happened. I graduated from business school, sold my company. I was working for this other company. And then I left the company, and my husband and I went to travel for like 6 months around the world. And we came back, I think, a month before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And I was living in San Francisco, and it was 9/11, and the dot-com world imploded, and companies were going out of business left and right, and headhunting firms were shutting down, and it was a very sad time. But it forced a lot of us to be creative, and I got back from my travels. I didn't know what my next move would be. I didn't have a job. And I just thought, what do I like doing? What am I good at? What are my skills? And I thought, well, I went to Penn, I went to Kellogg, I'm a good writer, I'm a marketer. Maybe I can help someone with their business school application. That was something I would have liked when I applied. There was no one helping. So I put word out there. I sent like an email blast to this one group, and it was like crickets. And I thought, okay, this isn't something that people want. And then I think several weeks later, I got an email, and this Israeli guy who was living in the Bay Area at the time wanted to go to business school in Boston. He wanted to go to either MIT or Harvard, and he wanted my help. So that was my first client, and he got in. I worked, I probably made like $1 an hour, all the hours I worked with him. But that was really the beginning. It was not, unlike my other company, it was not born out of a big elaborate business plan and VC funding and all of that. It was really just born out of a passion of mine and me thinking hard about my skills and interests. And I think sometimes taking that more organic approach can be the best way. And it's 20 years later, it's a thriving company and really a source of like fulfillment for me and my team. So it's been a very, very positive thing.
Yeah, and I know Clear Admit started at around the same time, and we both used to be in the same exact domain doing admissions consulting, and Clear Admit has since moved into a different domain with respect to just being a kind of MBA community site. But I've watched your firm grow over the years, and just the accolades come in right and left, and it's I guess the one question I had for you is, how do you think the admissions consulting space has evolved? Because I remember, in the early 2000s, when you were, getting started, there weren't that many firms, and it was kind of a newer concept, at least in the MBA domain. I think undergrad, counselors existed, but it seemed like a, kind of new territory to head into. And now it's a little different. So I'm kind of curious what your take is on how it's all kind of evolved.
Yeah, when people ask me how the admissions consulting industry has changed, my reaction is, well, it actually became an industry. Because back when we started, it wasn't an industry. It was, I built my own little website with, and you guys launched as well. And okay, we were both out there, and people were kind of discovering, wow, okay, maybe I can get help with my MBA application, but it wasn't a known thing. And I was, again, that's where a lot of my Kellogg network came into play. I was out on the ground, like going into offices, telling banking analysts that, okay, we can help you with your applications. It was really like grassroots marketing.
Sure.
Now it's an established industry. There are a lot of players. There are rating sites. Applicants have an opportunity to shop and really find the right fit for them. And I acknowledge no one firm can be a perfect fit for all applicants. So it's nice that there's choice out there.
Yeah, agreed. And now I feel like, just because I've known you for many years and I've seen many folks work with your organization, I feel like there's a ton of, the quality level is incredibly high. I just hear that over and over again. And yet, like, as you said, there are a lot of other firms. And so I'm kind of curious, like, how do you guys differentiate? What do you think? What do you tell someone when they say, well, why should I, kind of approach you? What makes your firm special in terms of giving this kind of advice to candidates?
Yeah, I think that a lot of firms out there, in an effort to differentiate, they're coming up with various bells and whistles and claims, and that's all great, and it might be effective and true. And SBC certainly has their process, and we have our set of bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, it's our team. I think the team always comes first. And you can have a shiny website and this fancy process, but if the team isn't absolutely the best, it all falls apart. So we have really been thorough and strategic about recruiting our team. I believe we're the only team that has former AdCom from every single top school. We have representatives from every school, Harvard, Stanford, Kellogg, Wharton, and so on. And that means that we have amazing insights, we have the connections, and we share them across our team. And we have really great continued training for our team. It comes direct from heads of admissions themselves who seek us out. They want to educate us. They want to collaborate us. And because we've been around for so long and we work with such a broad range of clients, we have a really powerful database. So we have the data from our clients and all of that history, and we have the data coming in from our connections and from our team who has served on AdComs. So all of that, it's a powerful database that really informs our coaching.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I think one of the things that I always am wary of is I feel like it's easy to hang out a sign and say, oh, I can get you into business school. I'll read your file, give you feedback. And yet, when I worked in admissions at Wharton, I saw over and over again that, even the applicants we were admitting didn't always know that much about like what they need to be doing in the admissions process. And so I feel like having former admissions officers on the team is the best way to go, right? I think, there are a lot of people who, just think they can advise, without having the background. And it really is insightful to have been on the other side. So I feel like that's a great differentiating point. One thing I wanted to ask you, because I feel like some of our listeners, they're sort of on the fence about whether they should work with an admissions consultant. It's an issue that we see people discussing on the website all the time. It's sort of like, is it worth it? It can cost a lot of money. Can I just do this on my own? So what would you say to someone who's kind of wondering about that?
So you can do it on your own, and people do. But at the very least, a good consultant will make the process easier and saner and more focused, and you're going to save time and apply with a lot more certainty. That's kind of the basics, right? That needs to be the very beginning of where you start. It's just going to make your process much more streamlined, which is very valuable when you're juggling work and admissions tests and essays and life. But beyond that, a good consultant, and I really feel that everyone on our team does this, they're going to help you find your true voice and your authentic story and tell it in a way that really resonates with admissions. So the benefit there is that, yes, there is an investment upfront to hiring an admissions consultant, but it's nothing compared to the investment of time and money of actually going to school. And working with a good admissions consultant, you'll end up at a better school that's a better fit for you. A lot of our clients actually come away with merit dollars, so working with us actually pays for itself. But even without the dollars, making sure that you end up in the very best place is a smart investment. I mean, you're putting so much into it, the 2 years off of work. Our clients, they apply on their own and they don't get in, or they get into someplace they're not as excited, and then they reapply, and they just have so many more choices.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. I mean, I think that it's, for better or for worse, even today, schools are accepting applications, not applicants on some levels. Like they're making decisions about applicants based on the application. And so the importance of like putting your best foot forward, and as you said, finding your voice, and just making sure that you're kind of running on all cylinders it's just so vital to getting into top schools. And as you point out as well, the better you do, the more likely, there are going to be maybe some scholarship dollars on offer, or that you'll just end up at a school that's a one rung above where you might have ended up otherwise. So yeah, to me, I think it's a great investment. I think the same could be said of like test prep, and I always kind of raise an eyebrow when someone is like, oh, why would I spend money? I can do all this on my own. And I get that. For me, given what the price tag is to go to business school and what you're likely to earn afterwards, it would seem like a no-brainer to spend a little bit of money in order to increase your odds of getting into the schools that are the gateway to, all kinds of great things, not just money, but network. And, as you said, the MBA itself can be really life-changing. So in any event, probably enough said on that. But I think one of the things I know our listeners want to hear from you is some admissions strategy. So is there is there a tidbit that you can offer up? Like, is there something that you think most applicants are like sort of in the dark about that they really need to know as they approach applying to, Kellogg or other top schools?
Yeah. One of the things that I like to talk about with admissions strategy is the white spaces on a resume. So what we find is that a lot of applicants spend their essays kind of reiterating what is written on their resume and just kind of expanding it into story forms. So they'll say, I went to this school and then I took this job and here's what I did at the job. And that's their effective admissions essay. Mm-hmm. But we coach our applicants that a really effective essay will focus on filling in the white space on the resume. So why did you attend a certain school? What drove a decision? And that's the interesting part that will set an applicant apart from every other person who has similar resume bullet points. So, if you have 3 white males who all went to Princeton and then went to work for McKinsey, which, there's a lot more than 3 of those. There's many, many, many of those. They're all going to have that same story, the same bullet points on their resume, but the white space, the why and how and the emotions behind it, that's what makes the essays come alive, and that's how the admissions committee can really get to know you. So it's focusing on the why and not the what, and that comes out of those white spaces.
Great advice. I hope everyone was paying careful attention because that's really dynamite advice. Like, I think that's what people need to be able to do so that, as you say, they stand out. Because a lot of people have the same kind of bullet points on the resume, but it's really what's behind them. I wanted to ask you, like, what else have you been up to? I mean, I know that, obviously running SBC is a big job. But are there other things that you've been up to? Anything you wanted to share that, kind of is, because I know you're kind of an entrepreneur in other dimensions too. You do some other things. So.
Yeah. So, SBC will always be, that's my passion. I love it. And we're always kind of innovating and growing and trying different things with SBC. Recently, we launched a website called The Blacklight, which is sort of focused on how can we help you before, during, and after your MBA, not just applying, but in life and work. And so there's a lot of content coming out of that helps you, once you graduate and you're in the work world, different tips and advice and interesting, amusing articles. So there's that. During COVID, we launched our Stacy Blackman Consulting podcast. It's called Be Schooled, that you should come on, Graham. Maybe you'll come in.
Yes, I love the title.
Thank you.
I love the name. When I saw it, I was like, this is great. It's always obvious to me that you're such a great marketer because you just come up with whether it's Blacklight or, Be Schooled, these are always really good. Just brilliant. So,
Thank you.
I'd be happy to come on. And actually, I want to encourage our listeners to check out Be Schooled because I believe that your approach is a little different from ours. It's like, I don't know if it's every week or not, but they're shorter episodes and they're very focused on kind of specific bits of admission strategy, right? Is that more or less what you've been doing? Or
yeah, it's a little bit of everything. We talk sometimes to our former clients about their experiences, both applying and in B school. We've done stuff on testing. It's all across the board, and we get a lot of feedback from our listeners and try to address that and shape episodes around that. So it's been fun. It's been really well received. So that's a new SBC endeavor.
Got it.
And then in terms of what I've been up to, I have my 3 kids, so that's been keeping me busy, especially during COVID.
Yes.
They're all around in their homes, so
yes,
yeah,
understandable.
It's busy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And my little pooch, who's sitting here next to me, who's my new best friend, hanging out with me in my office every day.
Wow, that's bold. Recording a podcast with a dog, because Alex Brown on my team, who records our kind of regular weekly podcast, he has a couple of dogs on his property, and sometimes they interrupt the podcast, so it's funny that
I was a little nervous that Oliver might start barking, but he's just curled up here, quite content. So
excellent. So the last thing I wanted to ask you is, whether or not you've got specific advice for women who are thinking about business school or even just entrepreneurial endeavors. I mean, I know you mentioned earlier that your first job doing like private equity, you were in this kind of all male environment. And I feel like, business school there's still more men than women. Obviously, some of the schools have been getting closer and closer to parity, but we're not there yet. And so I was just wondering if you had any thoughts or words of wisdom for the female crowd that's thinking about entrepreneurship or just business school in general.
Yeah, I think of myself as being fairly confident and able to navigate this world, but it can be hard and it can be sort of intimidating. It's just kind of built into maybe my psyche. So for me, I have like two mantras that I think of whenever I want to do something and I'm scared or I don't feel like I can do it. And one is that I'm never going to be ready and the other is I'm never going to be good enough. And the idea is, you never have enough time, money, resources. You never have enough skills. You just have to take the leap and jump in. So I say start before you're ready, because you're never going to be ready and you got to go for it. And that was really the case for me. I remember I was planning to apply to business school a year later than I did. I bumped into an old friend at a wedding and she had just started business school and she said to me, well, you should just apply this year. If you feel like you're ready, if it's on your radar, just apply because you won't be going for another year. And so I did. I sort of in my head, I thought, well, this is a dress rehearsal because I'm not really ready and I'll do it for real in a year. But I did it and I got in and lo and behold, I was at Kellogg. So I think for most of these things, I never really know what I'm doing. But we're smart and capable and connected and we can find answers and we got to just forge ahead.
Yeah, that's really good advice too. In fact, my first boss when I graduated from college and in my first job was I think he was a Harvard Business School grad. And he would always say, a good plan executed on time is better than a great plan executed too late. And that's sort of similar, this idea that you're never really going to have the perfect thing ready to go. Just sometimes you got to take the leap. Excellent advice. So Stacy, I really appreciate you making time. I know you're incredibly busy. And so it's just great to connect and I think our listeners obviously they always enjoy hearing from folks like yourself who've got an MBA from a top program, who've, done the entrepreneurial thing. And in your case, obviously, your experience in admissions is just so relevant for this crowd. So I'm so glad you could make time. And yeah, thanks for doing this.
Thank you. It's fun to be able to connect with you every once in a while and be able to chat with you. So thanks for having me on. And I enjoyed our conversation.
So, folks, stay tuned. We've got more episodes coming, and please remember to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. And yeah, Stacy, thanks once again, and everyone, we'll see you on the next episode.